Hey, good afternoon. How y'all doing? It is Well Red Beard. Let's talk about a book. We're here for a book review, and today we are going to talk about Sallow from the fabulous Alan Baxter. Alan Baxter is the real motherfucking deal. I have really strongly liked everything I've read by him. I think this is my fourth Baxter read. I gave this book 4 stars, which I gave Served Cold, his collection of short stories, 5 stars. I gave The Gulp, which is a 5 story collection, but longer stories, like almost novellas, about the Gulp, which is a place, I want to say it's Gulpepper. It's in Australia. It's a small community there. I think it's on the coast. Anyway, I gave both of those books 5 stars. I gave this one 4 stars. Liked it a little bit less, but I still really like this. And to be honest with you, looking back, it's still in running for my top 5 small press novels of the year of 2022. So again, when I read a bunch of a particular author's work, I mean, I would feel bad ranking them all 5 stars, because then again, I think if everything's 5 stars, then it doesn't mean anything. You know, I don't want to be just a fluff factory, but I also feel that this is the third book of his that I read that I really liked, and I'm saying this because part of me feels bad for giving it 4, because I did really like the book. The premise of the book is phenomenal. I'll get into that in a second. I mean, there's a moment when the premise kind of jumps off the page at you, and you're like, fuck. I mean, it really grabbed me. So I'm going to read the synopsis. Something old and deadly has awoken. Again, I don't know if I said this. This is from Cemetery Dance Publications. When 2 teenagers go missing from the small rural town of Sallow, the residents come together to search for them. Little do they suspect that finding the wayward girls will be the start of their problems. An old evil is rising, and only one man seems to realize that everyone is in danger. And this is not the first time it's happened. With the carnival in town, people want to have a good time, but for many, this will be the worst time of their lives. If you're not familiar with Alan Baxter, he is a multi-award winning author of horror, supernatural thrillers, and dark fantasy. He's also a martial arts expert, and that has nothing to do with me highly ranking his books, because he lives in Australia, the other side of the world. Like, even if he could kick my ass, he's not going to fly over here just to do that. And he's a martial arts expert, a whiskey-soaked swear monkey, and a dog lover. He creates dark, weird stories among dairy paddocks on the beautiful south coast of NSW. Is that north, south? No. NSW, Australia. Find him online at www.alanbaxter.com.au. Australia. So I really like the book. Now let's talk about the premise. We talked about these 2 teenagers going missing. Our main character is a man. He is like this local school janitor. He lives in the basement under the school auditorium. He has an aversion to people. He is an introvert to the next level. Really bad at social things. But it goes so far as to, I think at one point, again, correct me, I feel bad if I'm wrong about this, but one part it does mention almost like a mild autism. So it's very early on, and that doesn't really come back up again as far as the actual diagnosis, but I want to kind of leave you with that at one point it does say that. So 2 girls go missing. He knows these girls. He's the janitor at the school. He knows who they are. He's checked the footage and saw when they left. The carnival is coming to town. Now, come on, I know you people, you love carnival horror. But the carnival is coming to town. They think, well, maybe the 2 girls went and checked out the carnival setting up. Carnival opens up tomorrow. And anyway, so eventually they're found deep in the woods at this cabin by a lake, and they're rescued. They're brought back, all three of them. See, that's only two of them went missing, but three of them are found, and everybody in the fucking town does not think that's weird. They in their minds, three girls went missing, not two. Two went missing, three were brought back, and the only person in town that realizes that is our main character, Caleb. I want to say it's Caleb Jackson. Caleb Jackson. He's the only one that knows it, and we don't really know if it's because of his social condition or what, but he's the only one that realizes this shit, that this new strange girl. I mean, they've known her forever. She lived there forever. She's a little rambunctious. She's she's a little bit of a wild child. She's lived there forever. Well, where does she live? Well, who are her parents? But they'll, like, when that subject comes up, they'll completely get off of it and just kind of forget that there's something odd about this. So there's your premise. There's the premise that pulled me in. The premise that really locked me in. There are so I'm going to go to like a very, very small negative, that there are a few mistakes throughout this book. It wasn't 10, but it wasn't one. There were 5, 6 different places where I caught little errors in the text that kind of gave me pause, kind of slowed the flow of the story for me. Now, I'm not the sort of person to dwell on that, but if they're there and if they do affect the experience at all, I mention it. Again, not a big deal at all, but I just wanted to mention that because, if by chance you pick up this book based off what I've said here, you'd be like, oh, there's mistakes in this book, and Well Red Beard didn't catch them up. I don't know. I'm not very good at social situations either. Bit of an introvert myself. But anyway, so there are a few mistakes, but again, they didn't affect the story in any way. It just kind of gave me pause in a couple places. But yeah, it's a really, really great horror story. The carnival elements are great. There's an element of a particular carnival sideshow owner, kind of like a carnival contractor, so to speak, and he has got this this sideshow thing of like Joseph Mengele's lab, right? Like from World War II, Holocaust, experimented on twins and children and people with 2 different color eyes and all this shit. And I did feel like that element could have been leveraged a lot more than it was, because I found it like kind of super like intriguing, I guess. Like I thought that maybe those objects, those tools, those things in that display might have played a bigger role than they actually did. But yeah, so we've got this this girl, and we find out through microfiche, is that how you fish, whatever, the library, the old pictures of newspapers and things like that this has happened before, that girls have gone missing, and they've always been found, normally a lot later than these 2 were found, but they've always been found, and then 10 or 11 people, 8, 9, some people have died. Some people have died in this town, but only men. Men are the ones dying, not women. The girls are always found safe, and the deaths that happened around those situations are always men. There are some strong themes about that, about toxic masculinity. One element of this is that briefly a kid was going to play some Dungeons and Dragons with his friends. His father was like, nah, let's go out in the wilderness and go out to this cabin, make you a man, this and that. And anyway, there's an element of toxic masculinity there, like of stomping it out, so to speak, which I found enjoyable. So there's a social element, a social aspect to this book as well. But yeah, when we learn more and more about this girl that has shown up out of nowhere, this thing, and we realize that it has come back, not on like a super regular schedule, like it's not like every 27 years, but it did, bring back, some comparisons, some memories of it. But when you realize that, and finally, like deep in the story, and I mean deep, we get we get the backstory, who she is, who she was, where she came from, what's going on, and in that you find that, and I've read a lot of books like this recently where there is this female villain, and when you look deep enough, and do not get me wrong, the period between what happened and now, a lot of bad shit's happened. A lot of somewhat innocent people have died. But you realize that, these female villains were made by men, so to speak, were put on this course of wrathful vengeance by a group of men. And so it's got that element. It's got a bit of like, Witch in the Woods, feel to it too. A little bit of folky horror. So look, there's some folk horror, there's some witch stuff, there's carnival horror, there's small town, again, the missing girls. There's a lot of really cool shit going on with this book. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about. I think there's one more thing. I'll remember it when I stop this video. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Oh, I know what I was going to say. This is one of those ones that, like, you're like 20 pages from the end and you're like, how in the fuck is this going to wrap up? So it's not one of those ones that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I say this as I just recently finished Swan Song. And in a book like Swan Song, 950 pages, there's going to be some wrap up, right? There's going to be 30, 40 pages of wrap up after the climax. But I don't really like that in like a standard 300 page book. And that's how this one was. This one like took you right to the end, right? Like you're 20 pages out and you're like, how in the fuck is this going to end? So, again, very cool book. Really the only reason that it's 4 stars is because I liked it less than The Gulp, and I liked it a little bit less than Served Cold. Huge fan of Baxter. There's a couple others here that I need to get into. I'm going to have to pick up The Fall. I don't have The Fall yet, and it is like the sequel to The Gulp, and I love The Gulp. 5-star, love The Gulp. Like it was, I want to say it was my collection of the year, but then I've said that about another book. It was top 1 or 2 short story collections for me, either in 2022 or 2021. I can't remember. But that's it. This is Sallow Bend, Alan Baxter. Really, really cool horror novel. Definitely worth your time. Baxter is one of the greats. I mean, as far as indie small press horror, Baxter feels like, I mean, again, I'm not trying to cut anybody down or anything, but he feels next level. Like, these books belong on the big shelves, So, Sallow Bend, Alan Baxter, Well-Read Beard. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying all your books. Read some goddamn small press horror. I don't know where that came from. I hope you're enjoying all your books as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.